Massimo Ferri was the man everyone wanted to be, or everyone feared. He had built an empire with the coolness of a chess player and the vision of an architect. His every decision moved capital, his every sentence became the object of analysis, and his every presence attracted glances and whispers. The newspapers described him as the king of luxury, but no one ever bothered to ask who the man behind the tailored suits, the dark glasses, and the impenetrable gaze really was. Massimo was born into a family where the word feeling was used sparingly. He grew up amidst rigid expectations and business, and from an early age he learned to hide his fragilities. The most exclusive schools, strategic friendships, the first failure overcome with ruthless determination. Every step of his life had been planned, nothing left to chance. He was a winner. But as often happens to those who know nothing but the race for power, he no longer knew what he was running for. He had had women, sure, many, all beautiful, perfect, enchanted by his charisma and his money. But all of them, one after the other, had vanished without a trace. None of them had been able to see Massimo truly. None had touched him deeply. Over time, he had convinced himself that true love was a fairy tale for the naive, and so he had transformed his heart into a closed office for vacation, elegant, tidy, but devoid of life. But then something happened. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. It was a cold, gray winter morning. Massimo was walking through the lobby of his company when he saw a girl sorting out some documents at the reception desk. Nothing spectacular, no theatrical gesture. But there was something about her that made him slow down. He didn't know her. She must have been new. She had blonde hair and a face that was not easily forgotten. But it wasn't her beauty that struck him. It was her expression. She had a sincere, present look, a look that asked for nothing. That girl was called Sonia. She was 29 years old and had a degree in her pocket, but few connections to enter the world of work that mattered. She had accepted that job as a receptionist with the dignity of someone who knows that every effort is worth it if it helps build a future. She lived with her parents in a small but loving apartment. Every morning she got up early, made coffee for her father who had already been ill for a while, and then faced traffic to get to work on time. Sonia didn't know the glittering world of the rich, and she wasn't interested. What guided her were simple values, respect, gratitude, and honesty. Massimo began to notice her more and more often. At first it was just a brief exchange of words, a few good mornings and good work, accompanied by barely perceptible glances. But he, a man used to observing everything, noticed something that no one else seemed to see, the light that Sonia brought with her, a light made of authenticity. It was as if, in the ruthless frenzy of his business, Sonia represented a breath of fresh air, an exception. He, who had always had control over everything, was starting to feel destabilized. He often thought back to those few seconds spent in front of that desk, and this annoyed him because Sonia wasn't trying to attract his attention. She wasn't flattering him. She wasn't behaving like someone who wants to please a powerful person. She was simply herself, and precisely for this reason, irresistible. But while Massimo discovered a new, almost childish curiosity for the girl, Sonia's life was suddenly shaken. Her father, who had been battling a chronic illness for months, was rapidly deteriorating. One morning, returning home from her shift, Sonia found her mother in tears and her father lying on the couch, pale and weak. The subsequent diagnosis was clear. An emergency operation was needed. Without that intervention, the man risked paralysis or even death. The real problem was the cost. It was very high, too much for a family like theirs. Sonia closed herself in a painful silence. She continued to go to work, to greet kindly, but her eyes had lost that spark that Massimo had learned to look for. He watched her day after day, until one morning he couldn't stand it any longer. He called her into his office with a banal excuse. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Sonia hesitated. Then, in a low voice, she told everything. She wasn't looking for sympathy. She was just telling it to vent, perhaps because she felt that the man, so distant and cold, wasn't that cold anymore. Massimo listened to her without interrupting. When she finished, there was a few seconds of silence. Then he said, "I can help you. I'll pay for the operation. But on one condition, you have to follow me on my business trips for 3 months. I need a person like you at my side." Sonia's heart stopped. She knew what that proposal entailed, not explicitly, but she knew it, and she refused. She said she couldn't accept help in exchange for a presence, that it wasn't a commodity, and she left. But her father's condition worsened. The days became longer, the nights heavier. Sonia looked for alternatives, but all doors remained closed. One day, holding her tired father's hand, she saw a plea in his eyes, and then she understood. She had to put her pride aside, at least for a while. She returned to Massimo. With a broken heart, she accepted. But she told him clearly, "I'm doing it for my father, but I'm not for sale." And so began a series of trips that would change everything. When the trimester ended, Massimo and Sonia were no longer the same people they had been before. He had discovered the value of truth and vulnerability. She had found the courage to trust. Back home, there were no more agreements to respect or roles to play. Only two hearts ready to build something real. Massimo, for the first time, put aside power to listen to his heart. He asked Sonia to stay by his side, not as an assistant, but as a life companion. And she, with shining eyes and a heart full of emotion, said yes. From that moment on, they faced every challenge together, hand in hand. And while Sonia's father smiled at life again, the two of them built their own, founded on love, respect, and the freedom to choose every day, again and again, for each other. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.